Yeah, we recording?
Yep, we're ready.
Okay.
Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot stand. I don't care, I'm still free. You can't take the sky from me.
All right, welcome to this episode of First Reaction Fan Reaction. I'm your host, Dara Widman, and here with me is my co-host,
Kaylee Clithy.
You're just gonna say it like that every time.
Yeah, it's my thing now.
All right. Well, we're still on Firefly. We're still watching the show, and we're going to be talking about episode 8, Out of Gas, and episode 9, Ariel. Now, unlike the last two episodes, which were like, funny,
Fun, fillery.
I
Goodness.
don't know. I'd say Out of Gas was semi-fillery.
Yeah, Out of Gas didn't really contribute to the overall overarching plot.
But
it wasn't as fun.
Unlike the last episodes, these were not very well. I mean, I'd say Ariel was a bit funny, but like this episode, not well.
No, not really.
Kind of sad. Kind of dramatic.
Yeah. It was a dramatic episode.
Made you feel some feels.
You felt the feels.
All of the feels.
Yes.
Yeah, in this episode also, like, there wasn't, like, a big... Like I said, there wasn't much, like... I guess, like, you, like, learn more about the story.
Yeah. Yeah, you learn a lot of backstory in Out of Gas, yes.
So this episode is also interesting, like, the way it's structured, because it's, like, definitely, like, 3 parts.
Yes.
It's Mal on the ship, alone, injured, dying, just walking around... alone.
Trying to do a thing. Not really sure what thing, but he's trying to do a thing.
It's what happened to lead to said part where Mal is alone on the ship. Like in that whole thing with the crew. And then it's flashbacks.
Flashback to
See
founding.
The getting Serenity and basically how Mal met everybody with the exception of Zoe because we kind of already knew that they knew each other.
Right.
And also Simon Simon and River and Book because we knew how that was the first episode. That was the first episode. So so basically we see how like Mal got the ship, brought Zoe on, met Wash, met Kaylee, met Inara, met Jane. Yeah. Yeah. So do you want to just go through like the parts or do you want to try to go by how this whatever?
Let's go by parts.
Okay, probably should do the part with Mal by himself, like at the last bit.
Yeah, because that's how it starts off.
And like that's how it starts off. That's how how it ends. So but I think we should talk about how we got to that point. Yeah. Okay. So I think I remember like when I was first watching this episode, and basically they're just at dinner and they're having fun. It's Simon's birthday, and they make him a cake,
protein cake,
and then next thing you know,
there's like an explosion. Just things go
and
kaboom.
Zoe gets like knocked the fuck out.
Oh yeah, well she's trying to cover.
She's trying to get Kaylee out of the way. She pushes, and then it's just like patroom, and then just like
it just goes flying.
Wash gets all. I'm like poor Wash.
Aw,
and Zoe because she's like
such a good husband.
I know. She gets really. She gets like really injured, and like you don't know if she's gonna live or not. You don't know. And there's more fire, just like a big explosion thing. Yeah. I think I remember, like, did you think, like, because I remember when I was first watching this, I thought just because of, like, with the way the episode started with Mal just kind of, like, collapsed, I thought, like, somebody might have tampered with the ship. Right. Were you thinking that?
Yeah, I was kind of at first, because I felt like, well, I think that's how a lot of the episodes have been playing out. Like, I don't, like, not many circumstances in which like something just goes wrong on the ship just to go wrong. It's usually like an outside force going in and tampering with things.
Yeah, but with this case, like we've established that like Serenity's a pretty like old semi-broken down kind of ship. Yeah. So basically what happened is just, shit happens. Right. It explodes. So there wasn't any actual tampering. It just happened.
Yeah. It's just much in the same way that a car just decides that doesn't want to work anymore.
Yeah, so basically with this explosion, it kind of just like blew out it just blew out like a part of the engine, which means that the life support and the other external life support,
like the important stuff,
is all dead,
and there's no life support.
Everything's like dead, and Wash is a bit distressed.
Yeah, that's fair.
Everybody's a bit distressed, and Mal's just kind of like saying. Like, especially like Kaylee, he goes to her first because she's upset. it basically says like you just need to figure out what's wrong with the ship, like go do your job. And same thing, he tries to tell Wash like get a signal out.
Yeah,
and Wash is pretty defiant as to not wanting to do that.
Right,
which I get because like
he's worried about his wife.
She might be dying.
She might be dying.
Then Mal gets a bit aggressive and just like go do your job. And I'm kind of on Mal's side. Like yeah, you should go do his job. I know that it's like, and everybody's just stressed out. They could die. It's not a pleasant experience. So, fun times. And everybody's like, I think the reason this worked for me, like knowing, like in my own mind, obviously I'm like, all right, they're not going to die. Like it's the 8th episode of the series. Like they're not going to die. But like the way that everybody was like playing it out, you were really concerned.
Yeah, it was a good. I mean, there was good kind of dramatic tension.
Yeah, also, and then there was a bit of comedy. I like the part with River and Book.
Oh yeah,
because he's just like, it seems like he's just like praying, and River's like, "Don't worry, we're not gonna just like lose oxygen and die."
And you're like, "Aw,"
like we'll freeze to death first. And I'm like, "Thanks, River.
Yeah,
you're pleasant."
She's very pleasant.
So at this point, basically, Kaylee says like one of the parts that they need in order for the ship to get rolling is just dead.
Yeah. Like,
and they need a new one.
Yeah.
And at this point, like we should probably mention, they're like out of reach for like anybody. They're like really laying low.
They're in the middle of nowhere, yeah.
So when Wattpad says like, we need to like, it's going to be really hard to like boost this up. We need to get signal. They have like a weird argument where Wash like makes up, like they both kind of get up with a good idea. And Wash is like, I should go do that then. And we're like, yes, you should. And Jane being Jane.
Just Jane being Jane is its own thing.
I mean, we'll talk about him in the next episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, like anyway. So then finally, they're just kind of like they need somebody to come help them. So they have the signal out, and they're still losing air. And if there's a lot of people in there, so they're gonna be losing air. So Mal's basically like, all right, 4 people to a escape pod. 4 of them go there, 4 of them go there. And Mal's going to stay on the ship to get a signal.
Right.
The captain goes down with the ship.
Yes.
And Wash does the smart thing and kind of like reroute something with the red button. So basically, if Mal hits the red button, it'll signal them to come back. So that's the plan. So they all leave. And Mal just waits for a signal. Somebody does come on. And they say, all right, we'll get you your thing.
Right.
And you're like, hooray.
Yay.
And then it's like, not hooray.
Oh.
Because they're dicks.
Yeah, they just want the ship.
They want the ship, and then they're just, I don't know, like, they're not really, like, villains, but, like, I don't think they were, like, greatly written out, but, like, also I'm kind of thinking, like, they're kind of what I would expect. Like, they weren't, like, I mean, and they weren't.
They were kind of, just kind of that, like, chaotic neutral in a sense.
Yeah.
Or, like they're very like neutral and then like, yeah, sure, we'll help, but we also want the ship, but also okay, we'll leave, but also yeah.
Well, it didn't even seem like they really wanted to help. I guess I wanted like, because they figured like, oh, the ship's gonna die anyway, like you're not gonna get there. And then the one guy shoots Mal, and I'm like, son of a bitch, how dare you?
Just they didn't need to shoot him. They had enough guys. Where they didn't have to shoot. They could have just.
I guess I don't really know what their plan was. Like
like those guys. Their plan wasn't really well thought out exactly.
Maybe.
In a sense.
Well, it seems like also like they kind of just like they just found it, so they didn't have a full plan.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of like they would just wait to like get parts, and then like wait for the ship to die and get parts, and then obviously Mal's there, but then Mal finds a gun. And like holds it up to them, and it's basically like leave the part and go away.
And they're just like, okay. I'm like, you could have. I mean, they could have taken him easy.
Oh, of course they could have taken him.
That was. I mean, he was shot. Like his reflexes were slow.
My
they
thing is,
gotten in there.
I guess like thinking about it, and it's like me like having watched several shows that take place in like medieval time. It's kind of like if like somebody's like injured, it's not like honorable to just kill them. Or like it's kind of like
chivalry.
It's not, I don't know if it's chivalry. It's kind of like if you want to like defeat somebody, you want to defeat them in a fair fight. And if one of them's injured, it's not a fair fight.
Right.
So that might have been it. And the guy says like, well, you would have done the same. And we're like, no. Mal wouldn't have tried to, unless you were being a dick, which you were.
Right.
But whatever. Anyway, so then that leads into the third part, which is Mal just walking around the ship.
It's all
and trying to get
dark
to
and
the
cold and.
I mean, that part's pretty simple. Mal's just trying to walk and there is like a lot. I guess like this was actually directed really well, like with like different like flashbacks and cuts, and like the part where Zoe actually her heart stops beating, and then Simon gives her adrenaline, and then Mal just sticks himself with adrenaline.
Yeah, that was, they pulled a Pulp Fiction there. They just the adrenaline right to the chest. Ooh, ugh,
good times.
Ugly.
All right, you want to talk about some of the flashbacks?
Yeah.
How did you like the flashbacks?
I enjoyed the flashbacks. I mean, I like flashbacks when they're done right. I like them, but I thought it was cute. Like, it was kind of more lighthearted in how they met everyone, and how everyone kind of.
I think considering this episode, we needed some lightheartedness.
Right. Yeah, I thought it fit in well. This fantastic match cuts and like editing between the flashback scenes and like the Mal on the ship scenes. I thought those were done really well, and that was really effective.
Yeah.
Just his like, it was just so smooth, and it just fits so well. So that was something that really stood out to me.
Yeah. So the first one is Mal and Zoe, and Mal is showing Zoe the ship, and she is kind of like, really?
It's a piece of crap.
It's a piece of crap, and Mal's like, no, this is freedom, and we'll get her to fly. And Zoe's like, so she doesn't fly? No. We'll get it. And then Wash with his...
Yeah, oh, he had a terrible mustache.
Oh, the stash.
I
feel like, but also thinking about it, I feel like Wash would have that.
Yeah.
He would. Like, most of these
with
flashbacks...
With multitude of Hawaiian shirts.
Like most of these flashbacks are kind of like, I'm not surprised by any of these flashbacks. And so, basically... and then it's like the typical thing where Zoe's just like, I don't like him. And it's kind of like, oh, boy, you're going to like him.
Right.
And I'm just like, don't worry, just a mustache. She'll shave. It'll be fine.
Also, like, just a side note, Wash has a weird amount of like Hawaiian shirts that just like don't really fit into like the rest of the weird like space western aesthetic, but they're just there and it fits for him. But it's I just like noticed, I'm like, this is a strange time for a Hawaiian shirt.
I think it's just how, I don't know. I can't really explain them. I think it's just like those Hawaiian shirts.
It's just, I mean, it's a thing. Also, in the same way that like Jane wears just like graphic T-shirts, it's like weirdly like not like synchronous like with I think the aesthetic they're going for, but it's there and it happens. So I don't know. It's an interesting wardrobe choice.
Yeah, and then we also learned that Kaylee was not the first mechanic.
Right. Yeah, there was a dude.
Bester
is
his name. He's kind of
he was like a surfer guy kind of.
Yeah, and he had a weird tattoo on his body.
Yeah, he had like weird lines.
I saw but like literally it's just like he had like a necklace thing and then like a line down here and then he had like a triangle on his nipple.
Yeah, he had like a triangle nip.
And I didn't get it.
It's really weird.
That seems like that would hurt.
But what about the other nip that's just hanging
I don't
free?
know. Anyway, but he seems like kind of like, I think they just hired him because they needed a mechanic.
Yeah.
And they really didn't want to, and like he, like you could tell like he wouldn't have fit in.
Right.
And then the next one is how we meet Kaylee. Again, kind of how I figured we would. So it's Bester and Kaylee. You don't actually see that it's Kaylee. Right. And they're just like banging away.
Yeah, just
literally
in the middle of the ship, just doing it.
And Mal's upset because he wants the ship to get fixed. And he's kind of like, why are you doing that here and not like in your room? And it's like, oh no, she likes engines. And then she fixes the problem.
Right.
Like perfectly. And I'm like, yay, Kaylee. And she's acting like Kaylee.
Yeah.
And then she had like a nice dress on. Well, first she's like getting herself put back together after coitus. And yes, and then she fixes the ship. Bester gets fired and Kaylee needs to go ask her folks. It doesn't surprise me also, like, it's like she has parents. I'm kind of wondering, like, what are they doing now?
I don't know. They're probably just like, yes, I hope our daughter's doing well at being a space pirate.
Well, like, we know that, like, in between, like, the Battle of Serenity and then the beginning of the show was, like, 5 years. So I'm kind of wondering, like, did they meet? And we know, like, they met Inara, like, a year before the events of the show. Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering, did they meet, like, Kaylee, like, a few years ago? And then we meet Inara. This one I wasn't really surprised about, basically. Just like they're renting out one of the shuttles. And then they give it to Inara. And she brings up the point that, like, I'm respectable. You can get into better things with me if I'm a part of it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
She's a classy lady.
She is a classy lady. She's got such good outfits.
She does.
And then finally, how we meet Jane. Again, exactly how you would expect it to be.
Yeah.
He's with the crew. They're robbing them. Mal brings up some points. Basically saying, like...
He offers better pay.
He offers better pay and his own room.
Yeah.
And then Jane just shoots the guy in the leg, and Jane goes with them.
Yeah.
And, like, again, that's what you would expect.
Yeah. Which just really goes to show how, like, it's constantly shown through the episodes that, like, Mal really doesn't, like, trust Jane in a sense.
No, he doesn't. I mean,
and so, like, by that meeting, you're like, all right, that makes sense.
And, like, what we're going to see next episode, he really doesn't.
Right, yeah.
Which I guess, I mean, like, yeah, it makes sense that, like, but then also, like, you learn, like, with both of these episodes that, like, the one thing that Mal values is his crew. So even if, like, I know I don't trust this person, he's part of my crew, I'm going to stay with him. And then as we see later on, if you mess with my crew. Anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's all the flashbacks. And, like, and they were, well, actually, there's one more flashback at the very end, which we will get to in a bit. But, yeah. And I also like the fact that, like, they were all, like, kind of shot differently.
Yeah.
Like, the flashbacks were all, like, sepia toned a bit. Right. And then the bad, like, everything with the crew and, like, the crew the ship going haywire was, like, normal. And then Mal's stuff was, like, all in blue.
Yeah, it was, like, a dark and blue. That was good.
Yeah, so, like, the bits with Mal, basically, he's just walking around the ship trying to get to the engine. And he gets the thing and he fixes the engine.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of tension. We're just like, no. Because, like, he's losing a lot of blood.
Yes.
Like, so much blood. And then he has to get back to the cockpit in order to turn on, like, to get the signal, and he just passes out.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no. Turns out, and then wakes up in the infirmary, everybody's there.
Yeah.
Turns out Zoe was kind of woke up and was like, nope, we're going back. They go. I guess but I wonder if they would have had enough time to, like, check if he was compatible.
They probably, like, you probably know off the top of your. Some people just know.
I don't even know my blood type.
Mine is A positive.
Okay, fine. I'll figure mine out later. I don't care. No. Anyway, so everybody's fine, and it's just like this nice, like, little moment with the crew that they're a family, lovable people, and like, well, Mal's kind of. I love seeing Mal's kind of wonder, like, so who, like, called up on the ship thing, and it was Zoe, and I'm like, well, technically, if you were knocked out, so Zoe's in charge,
right?
That's how that works.
First mate.
And it's just this nice, like, episode with the crew, and it ends with basically this guy trying to sell Mal this, like, really, like, a big ass, like, yellow ship.
Yeah.
And he's like, and she's like, you'll be good in the ship, and Mal's just looking at Serenity.
Yeah.
Aw.
True love.
The end.
The end.
All right. So what'd you think of this episode?
I really liked this episode, actually. I think it had some, it was a good, a more, I guess, dramatic episode, especially coming off the last two, which were a little more fun. You got to, it wasn't completely filler in that you did get to see some of the, like, the flashbacks leading up to the founding of Serenity and the crew, which I really liked. And like I said before, I loved those match cuts in between those scenes. But I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was pretty solid. Like, I didn't say a lot during the episode because I just enjoyed just watching it.
And you got all the, like, at this point, because, like, we're right halfway through the show, so, like, you really do care about these characters, so, like, you felt all of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is probably one of my favorite episodes that I go back to. It was funny, if people who can hear this in the commentary, like, when we were playing this, I had the commentary on.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember, like, oh, yeah, I probably was listening to the commentary of this while I was watching it at one point.
Yeah.
I just thought about asking you this because I'm me.
Okay.
So we're about halfway through the show so far.
Right.
So I was wondering, like, what are your top, like, 3 favorite episodes so far?
Oh gosh.
And like, overall, like, your feelings on, like, everything.
Yeah. I don't think off the top of my head I can say which ones are my favorite. It's that's going to definitely be something I have to wait to watch the whole series, especially because there just aren't that many episodes.
Like the whole series, and then the movie probably.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really kind of getting on board with this show.
You're understanding why everybody loves it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't necessarily agree with people who say it's the best show ever, because there's a lot of people who feel that way and they're very passionate. But it's definitely a show. I think because there's obvious things. I think we point these out too, because there's obvious things with the writing in the show that isn't like 100% like wow, because like there's things where you can tell they obviously throw things in there just for the purpose of pushing a plot along, and doesn't really feel like things could gel better together at times. So I don't think it's, you know, the best show in that regard. I think it's the show with the greatest potential, because there's so much to build on. I think there's a lot to explore with it. But obviously you can tell that, I mean, that didn't get to happen. So
I know that just made me sad now.
So I mean, I don't agree. Like it's a good show. I wouldn't say it's like the best show ever or whatever. Like, you know, some of the super fans would say, but I will agree that it's a show that had some really awesome potential and had some really good opportunities to do things. Would it have done that when it went on? No idea. It could have easily just jumped the shark, or easily just done one thing that could have made it terrible. So I think what makes it really good for some people is that the show was never given the opportunity to screw up.
Oh yeah, and I don't know, like people, like I agree with you for the most part. Like it is like it is like one of my favorite shows. I wouldn't say it's like the best show ever. But like there's a difference between like saying something's the best and saying something's your favorite.
Right. Yes.
But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I was thinking also like when we get to the movie, that was basically like how the show was supposed to end. Right. Was the like everything that happens in the movie. So yeah. That's okay.
That. So yeah, I'd be curious to see that, and then from there, I think I can better. Things about it.
Spoiler alert: we're gonna watch the movie.
Oh yeah,
which I've already seen anyway. So
yeah,
and I know everything.
Okay.
Well, not everything, because like I'm realizing like I haven't watched the show in a couple years. I don't remember everything.
Right.
Like I don't remember much about like exactly what's wrong with River. Which segue, we'll be right back with Ariel after this clip thing.
Cool. All right.
And we're back.
Yeah.
And we're talking about episode 9, Ariel. So this episode, probably similar. I'd say like its most like similar episode was probably like the train job.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like, there's a job. It's a bit more complex. I'd say a bit.
Because there's a lot more like going into the job, because they do take more time to focus on like the preparation and just better building what was going in, because the scene like in the train job, not to like jump back, but it only was only like a minute where they focused on like the actual job and like before the whole rest of the episode happened.
Also like this was a bit more like character driven than the other one was just the job.
And this one like there's actual characters like more heavily involved in things.
And so basically we're on Serenity, and they're going to a planet called Ariel, hence the title. And which is like a big alliance planet. It's very sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's a lot of government officials.
Yes.
And nobody's really wants to leave the ship, which sucks for Wash, because he wants to go on a date with his wife.
Aw, this poor guy.
It's so sad. Anyway, the reason that they're going on the planet is because Inara's due for her companion physical exam.
Yeah. All right.
Which, as somebody who spent a full day in Amsterdam... I actually learned this when they go, like, because they have the red light district there.
Right.
And they're actually, like, the prostitution's, like, legal there. So they're very, like, big on, and they're, like, very good to their women. And one of them is, like, they have to go to an exam. Obviously, just to make sure that, like, they don't have any, like, diseases, make sure they're all healthy. So, like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like, obviously, like if somebody was going to seek that, they would want them to be healthy so they wouldn't get any. So it makes sense. I find that logic. And it also gets away to, like, because Inara's not really part of this episode, and they make him an excuse, like, book, is that like some kind of thing? Like some kind of
they just kind of like made a sideline like, hey, he's doing a religious thing.
Which makes sense. Anyway, so they're all just in the kitchen hanging out. They're playing some mahjong. Kaylee and Inara are. River's kind of a bit not doing well. Nope. And I'm just like, and Jane's just like being Jane, and Simon's being Simon. Everybody's being everybody.
Everybody's just doing their own thing.
And then River just, casually slashes Jane.
Slashes his chest like.
And I'm just like, oh
my god.
And Jane being Jane slaps her.
Yeah.
It's like pimp slaps her.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I forget like who was going to River and who was going to Jane, but like it's kind of clear. Mm-hmm. Like, and like obviously that wasn't a good idea, and I wasn't sure if like. I think I'm just wondering now because that kind of makes sense of what we reveal about River in this episode. Mm-hmm. That she's just like kind of upset with Jane. Yeah. And her emotions just like trigger. Right. And she just slashes him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing. Straight up.
So Jane is a bit upset. We would say. Understandable. Well, and then Simon, being the doctor, fixes him up. Yeah. And he's still mad, and he just kind of wants them like off the ship. And Mel's like, no, they're part of the crew now. Mm-hmm. They're not part of the ship. Mm-hmm. And he just tells Jane, like, no, we're not taking them off. Yeah. Go away now. And goes to Simon, basically says, like, your sister's getting worse, isn't she? Mm-hmm. And that's not good. You feel bad for River because she's just doing so horribly. Yeah. And Mel's just like,
what's her dealio?
What is her dealio? And Mel's just like, all right, keep her in her room. And basically, like, if she wants to go anywhere, you go with her, and you need my permission. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's fair. Mal's doing the right thing. Anyway, so they drop Anara off, and she goes to her thing, mm-hmm. and everybody's, like, hanging out, and then Simon's like, hey, I got a job. And it's a good job, I would say. Yeah. Basically, they're going to be at they're going to be in an area which has one of the best hospitals. Mm-hmm. So the idea is Simon wants the crew to sneak him and River into the hospital. Right. And the payment is they've got a bunch of medicine there.
That is like hella money.
It's a hella money. And you're thinking like, well, that seems like pretty insensitive and not right. And Kaylee even brings that up. And the truth of the matter is it's an Alliance like hospital. Yeah. So the idea is like, well, then they'll be restocked within hours. Yeah. Which is true. Yeah. Meanwhile, there's a lot of poor people who cannot get this medicine. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay.
Makes sense.
So they set up this whole plan. Basically, they need a hospital ship thing. Mm-hmm. And we were bringing this up. Like, how long were they working on this?
Yeah. Like, how long they like built an entire like helicopter in like a day.
Well, to be fair, like they found one. Oh, right. They found but it looked like pretty broken down. Yeah. So like they needed to, but still. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they needed to like find somebody to like get them like costumes, uniforms. Right. I'm thinking because like I'm thinking this now because basically they said Anara was gonna be gone for like 2 days, mm-hmm. and they do this plan like early like before even the sun's up. Yeah. So I think basically like they got the plan like the day that Anara left, mm-hmm. and then they had like probably like 2 days or something, and then like before they were gonna leave, mm-hmm. they did it. Right. And this is where the funny part comes in. Basically, like they're gonna be bringing Simon and River in like coffins. Yeah. And they're gonna be like asleep, and they're trying to tell everybody, okay, this is what you say that you did, so that they'll believe you, and then you just bring us to the morgue. Mm-hmm. And Jane's trying so hard, and everybody's trying hard, but they think they got it. Jane's still having a bit of problems, mm-hmm. and then Simon has like a medicine that'll like basically knock them out. Right. And River's kind of like, no,
this is a bad idea.
Well, I think probably, like I said, like she probably has like some kind of PTSD, mm-hmm. and like we find out later with like her emotions, and like probably every time she goes to sleep, she has dreams about whatever they did to her. Yeah. So you're kind of just like, oh, and she's like crying when they put him in, mm-hmm. and like, but like she trusts Simon, right? And who wouldn't? Because he's lovable.
He's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. Anyway, so they dock the ship really early. They're in the coffins, mm-hmm. and they get in there, and I'm like, what's gonna happen? Mm-hmm. And then they were like, oh, we got these bodies, and they're about to say a thing, and then the doctor's just like, nope, you're gonna take them down. Yeah. And Jane's all sad, mm-hmm. and like at first, like you're not, and like I forgot to bring this up, but like when they're on the ship, Mal basically brings up the fact of to Jane, basically saying like, are we good? Are you gonna like? And he's worried about money wise. Mm-hmm. And Jane's trying to like put him aside, like, no, the doctor came up with a good plan. And you're like, okay. Then they get to the morgue, and Jane's gonna stay with them, and Mal and Zoe are gonna go get the medicine. Mm-hmm. Which I'm wondering, was that the best plan? Like knowing that you didn't fully trust Jane.
That's actually a really good question. Yeah. Yeah.
I think probably because like Mal probably prefers working with Zoe.
Yeah, but
But like if that kind of situation, like any like God is like trust, but I'm kind of wondering like maybe you should have stayed there, or Zoe should have stayed there.
Is it because Jane is kind of the muscle and he can take a bunch of people at once in case they got caught?
Yeah, but Zoe could do that.
True. Gosh.
Plot points.
Yeah, exactly. That's like one of those things where it's.
Like, I was kind of thinking that like they just needed as a. I guess like probably Jane probably could. Jane is more muscle though.
Yeah,
and probably they could figure that like he's probably not great in a. I mean, he's okay in a bind, but not great in a bind. And like they would have been in less of a bind than Zoe and Mal would. They probably would have something bad would happen. Like what did happen? Basically, they got a doctor and they knocked him out.
Yeah,
and get the medicine, and they're on their way. Meanwhile, the plan is basically there was like a big, like medical, like 3D body scanner thing.
Yeah, high tech
that Simon can use to help like figure out what happened to River. But before that, basically, they're in a recovery room, and River's just going all like, "No, somebody's gonna die," and somebody does. Almost die, and Simon saves the day. Dun, 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 dun. And like totally like schools this one doctor.
Oh yeah,
because basically he gave him the wrong medicine.
Yeah, he hacked him up.
Well, basically like I thought like River, I forgot about this part, but like River says like no, he's gonna kill him, and I thought it was like a deliberate thing, but like it really wasn't. It was just a fuck up.
Right.
So it was kind of like what, and I love the look on River's face, like she's just so proud.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then they get to the room. And River goes on the table, and does she get knocked out? Her eyes are closed. I just thought she was.
No, I think she's just chilling.
Okay, anyway, so then this is where we learn about River.
Yay, about what's going on in her brains.
Which is a good amount of stuff.
Yeah, some science stuff. I'm not sure how legitimate that is, but you know.
Well, I mean, it's a nice machine. I assume that they know, and Simon knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Basically what we learn is they messed with her brain and they like went into it with stuff. So that does not seem good. And what you learn is, and I might actually have to like look up a couple of things like before the movie just because I'm like trying to remember exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
But what you learn is like, it sounds like it looked like they might have been lobotomizing her.
Yeah.
But not really. But basically what they did was they removed a part of her brain that basically she can't suppress emotions. It's basically like when she feels something, like she has to show it.
Right.
Which I'm kind of thinking now it might actually be useful, like especially with like anger, like if you need like some kind of like expert person and you need them to like be angry and like attack somebody if they can't suppress that emotion,
right?
Or even like if they need to like be in situations like. Because I'm like kind of slightly remembering, like, I mean, I do know what happens with River, and like to try not to give it away. But what do you think about that thing coming up?
About the
fact that like she can't express any emotions.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, because I don't think I quite like. I know I'm not supposed to quite understand why yet, but like I definitely didn't understand why yet. So I'm like, that's a thing where I just kind of took. I was like, okay, I'm curious what this means about other things.
Well, I mean, like it kind of comes up at like some points, like when she's like scared, like it's clear that she's scared.
Yeah. No, I mean that it shows itself. But I mean, what was the purpose of other people doing that?
So, yeah. So that's like, I mean, obviously it's like a big mystery that I think was obviously supposed to be spread out over several seasons. Not the case. Sorry, show. Anyway, and we forgot to mention this. Basically, as Simon and River are waking up, Jane calls the feds.
Yeah,
bastard.
Yep.
And you've been loving Jane. You're just like, oh, Jane.
You expect that from him, though.
No, I did. Especially like considering like he was really mad at them.
Yeah.
And he's just like all the feds, and he thinks he's gonna get paid. And then basically, Jane.
You can't take the sky from me.
Kind of like going.
Yeah.
And then she's kind of like, oh no. So she knows what's going on.
Yeah, she figured it out.
Meanwhile, they get to the exit and it's the feds.
It's the feds.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Okay, so then it's the feds. And they arrest them. And they arrest Jane too because they're like, oh, look, we were like helping up a fugitive. Mm-hmm. And he's like, screw you, man. Mm-hmm. Not going well. So then they're all arrested and they're like in an area and they're in a like holding. They're gonna be put in a holding cell.
Yeah.
While the men with the blue gloves. I don't know the exact. I just call them out with the blue gloves. I don't know the exact name. 2x2 hands of blue. Hands of blue. Yep. They are two. They are, according to this, they are called the blue gloved men.
That's easy.
Well, like River says that, and like you see like the look on her face, like it's not. She's scared. Yeah. And as you see them, they're kind of like scary.
They are scary.
Well, they got the thingy.
Oh yeah, like the weird.
Like I guess like it kind of
weird like hemorrhage device. That like makes your brain just.
That was pleasant. That was pleasant.
Terrible.
Ugh. I'm wondering because like if they had other people like River, I wonder if they just did that to them. And maybe River saw some of that.
Probably. I don't know. She's seen some stuff. She knows some things.
Oh, and she's like so young.
She's a baby.
I think she's only supposed to be like, I don't know how old exactly she's supposed to be, like age range wise, but I think she's at least like between like 16 and like 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, but then Jane gets him out. He does some of his muscles, and River kind of also helps out, like trying to find the exit. Meanwhile, the blue gloved guys coming in.
Yeah, they just like walk slowly.
Well, I don't know what to bring them up. Like I don't know like what they remind me of. I guess like other like villains like that. And
yeah. There's gotta be. I can't think of who exactly.
Anyway, but then obviously like Mal, Zoe, and Watch kind of like, okay, something's wrong. So then they go to get them.
Yeah,
they save the day. Hooray! And they get all the stuff. So everything good, except for the fact that Jane betrayed. At this point, like Simon has no idea because like when he like mentioned the part about the money in front of them, he was like whispering it.
Yeah.
So he has no idea that like Simon has no idea that Jane kind of turned them in.
Right.
Meanwhile, Mal put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Knocks him out. Well deserved.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then puts him like in between like the actual like exit thing and like getting in.
Yeah.
And basically like threatening to. Did you think Mal was gonna kill him?
No, that's not a Mal thing to do. He got pretty close though.
But he was like so upset. I was
getting a little nervous.
Well, like he even said like you do not like you mess with my crew, you mess with me. And like yeah, it's true. Like Mal does not trust Jane. So that's kind of thing. And we're just like, oh.
Yeah.
Did you? So like, were you worried that Jane was gonna die?
I got a little nervous, but not like I didn't think he was. If he would, that would have been a huge shock to me. I think. But no.
Yeah. And do you think Jane learned any lesson?
I don't know.
Well, like he was like really upset. Like obviously he didn't. I think like he loves the crew enough that like he didn't want them to like think negatively of him.
Yeah, I don't think he'll turn them in again. But I mean, he's still kind of a guy who.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like basically, like when Mal just like leaves him there, and basically Jane's like, "How you gonna tell them I died?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he's just like, "Well, don't say. Can you not like say like this? Just like make up a reason." And that kind of, and like he doesn't want to die like that. He's like, "Can you just shoot me?" So like I think that kind of like helps him respect Mal a bit more,
right? And
maybe be like official part of the crew. And like at this point, I think Mal might even trust him a bit more because they know what they can do.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's big. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that, and I think like Jane understands like what he did, and hopefully he'll just never do it again.
Right.
All right, so that's the end of that episode. The end.
Yay.
What did you think of that one?
I like this episode. I thought it was, I thought it was good to get back into, like, the overarching, like, river plot. That was good, because I'd kind of been wondering that for a few episodes, because that really hadn't gone anywhere. I mean, River had her moments in, what was that, episode 6?
Mrs. Reynolds?
No, the one. No.
Oh, Janestown. Janestown.
Yeah. No. The one that we watched like a few weeks ago.
Safe. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, like the one which town. Anyway. I mean, in that, like, even though River may have gotten some spotlight, he really didn't, learn about like what really happened to her. Exactly. And so then you see like the reappearance of the blue hand fellas. And so it was good to get back into that. And I know you compared this to the train job earlier, but I think this one is just, I don't know. I think it just does it better. As far as like doing an operation of sorts.
Well, I think it's obviously the train job was like the second episode, and this was the 9th episode. So like you learn.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I like this episode.
Yeah, I think this one's probably one of my favorites. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Right.
So yeah, so that's so that was Ariel, and that's the end of this episode. Woo! So everything going well. Do you have any ideas about where the show's gonna go from now?
Not particularly. I'm just kind of on the ride.
Do you have any predictions for what's gonna happen with River or
no,
or with anybody? Maybe some love stories, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, we don't really have much track left in front of us, so I'm not really sure.
No, we only got we're out to go through episode 10, so we only got 4 more episodes.
Oh my gosh.
5 technically if you count 10 to 14. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 5 episodes left. And yeah, so we're almost done with this show.
Oh my God.
And then we'll watch the movie, and then we're done with Firefly.
Word.
Yeah, like we said before, the show had a lot of potential. And it just kind of sucks that it didn't get to live that potential.
Right.
I think it did in comic books, but I don't really.
But could you also make the argument that the show is better for never going forward because it never got to ruin its chances?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But that's kind of my thing for a while. Yeah. This was my favorite show.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered would I have liked this show? But there are some shows out there. I was saying would I like this show if it would have continued? They could have really fucked it up.
Oh yeah.
But the thing with Joss Whedon,
it was very easy. I think this show has so much potential that it's so easy to go in a way that it would have been incredibly great, but it also could have been just been sucky.
Well, I mean, if you look at Joss Whedon's other shows that were going on around the time, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that show could have fucked it up, and for the most part, it didn't.
Yeah.
And even Angel, a spinoff, that could have fucked up. It really didn't.
Yeah.
There are some steps that they miss. So I don't think that the show would have I honestly don't think the show would have fully messed up.
Yeah.
But I would be kind of curious as to what would have happened. Would anybody, unlike other stories. But yeah, so next week is War Stories and Trash.
Ooh, Trash. I can relate.
And knowing what happens in these 2 episodes, we're gonna see some people that we haven't seen in a bit.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Some fun people.
I'm excited.
All right. So that's the end of this episode. Remember, all the links down below for our Facebook page at Dar Whitman. Email, I forgot to say that last episode. Email at Witty Clothes Productions.
Yeah, one of those.
.gmail.com. It's all down there.
It's all down there.
At Twitter at Witty Clothes. Patreon, Witty Clothes, all down in the description.
Just follow us.
Yeah, follow us everywhere. Facebook, all that stuff. Yeah. We'll get the hang of this eventually.
Eventually.
All right. Well, I'm Dar Whitman.
And I'm Galen.
Peace.
Peace.
You can't take the sky from me.